Hey YouTube, Alicia here. I'm back with another review for The Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 9, episode 4. So let's get to it. So this week we open up with Cynthia and Noelle playing tennis. And Cynthia uses this as an opportunity to talk to Noelle about her new cargo line. She has a line that she started of purses and handbags and different things like that. She tells Noelle that she would like to see her as the face of her product line called Cargo. So Noelle's very excited, and the launch is going to be in LA. And we also learn that Noelle is interested in looking at colleges in LA. So we move on to Sheree. She's in her condo. That's where she's living with her 2 children, Kaylee and Kyra. So Sheree starts to talk about how Chateau Sheree is almost ready. And Kyra says he won't really live there because he's going to be getting his own apartment. So Sheree says she's sorry it took so long to get into the house. She wishes it could have been different. And she tells us how when the divorce was finalized, Bob was supposed to have been maintaining the mortgage and the household expenses on their mansion or their house that they lived in before, but he didn't do that. And that's how they ended up in the condo. And so I'm just wondering, if the court ordered him to maintain those expenses and he just didn't do it, why weren't there any repercussions? I mean, I don't think you can just disobey the judge. So it seems like he'd be in contempt of court. There'd be some consequences, but we do know he didn't pay child support. So with them talking about moving into Chateau Sheree, Kaylee wants to know, what about Bob? And Sheree says that Bob hasn't done enough to warrant getting back into the house yet. He's got to earn his way back in. And Kaylee seems kind of sad about that. It seems like she really wants their family to be back together, which makes sense. You know, she's the child, and of course she wants her parents back together again. So then we see Kandi. She goes over to Mama Joyce's house with Ace, and she talks about how Mama Joyce doesn't babysit and how Mama Joyce charges her to babysit. So Kandi pretty much tells her that her buying that house was the salary that she was going to get for watching Ace. So while there, Kandi decides to tell Mama Joyce about what happened with Chris Kelly coming over to her studio, her candy factory. And so Mama Joyce is beside herself. And just seeing the flashback got my blood pressure up because, again, how dare this stranger come over there and start making accusations and saying what should happen. Anyway, I don't want to digress, but it got me hot again. So Mama Joy starts going off on Block, talking about how he owes $50,000 in child support and how Kandi was just too nice and gets taken advantage of. And so Kandi says, well, what was I supposed to do? I couldn't blast him on the radio because apparently since Block is a successful music producer or music person in the industry, he's on the radio talking about he's the $1 million man and whatever. And so it got Kandi mad a lot of times, but she said she couldn't blast him. So she didn't do that, but she's blasting him on a nationally syndicated television show. Well played, Kandi. Well played. And that brings me back to my question I asked in last week's vlog. How did they convince Block to get on this show? I mean, did they waive the back child support? There had to be some sort of financial agreement. There's no way this is going to be good for him. Bravo destroys people, their reputations, their relationships, and everything else. This is not going to be a good look for Block at all, any kind of way, unless there's some wonderful, warm, family hug at the very end of this season. But somehow they had been able to convince him to get on the show. And I really wonder if it was waiving that child support, him staying out of prison, because Riley's only 13. He still has 5 more years that he has to pay for her. So then we move on to Kenya and Phaedra. They meet up again, and the color coordination is in full effect. They're both in this nice orange color. They sit down, and Phaedra starts to talk about, just chit-chat. And then she kind of eases into asking Kenya about what happened with Sheree at the end of that escape room event the week before. And Kenya basically says she doesn't have anything to apologize for. She didn't call Sheree out of her name. Totally different set of events from what we all saw that happen. Typical Kenya. Well, the real reason that Phaedra invited Kenya to lunch or tea or whatever they were doing is because Phaedra has a foundation in Michigan, and it's called the Phaedra Foundation, and it's dedicated to helping the families and the children who are affected by the Flint water crisis. And she's asking Kenya for her help because she's from Michigan. So next we see Sheree and Bob. Bob has invited Sheree out to dinner. Sheree is dressed to the nines, y'all. She doesn't have that tacky little bob weave that she's been wearing for the last 3 weeks. Thank God. She has a cute little top knot, y'all. She looks snatched. Bob is wearing like sweatpants. It looks like he's wearing a gray t-shirt, gray pants, super casual, and takes her to a restaurant in the strip mall. Sheree calls him out, says, see, this is typical Bob with his regular BS. If he's trying to woo her, he needed to have come correct. So while they're talking, Bob is himself. He's joking around or whatever. And Sheree pretty much says, listen, you want to be serious about moving forward and trying to win me back and that kind of thing, but you've never even apologized for what you did to us. And so Bob, he actually does come correct. He said he apologizes. He wants to apologize for the extramarital affairs, for not being ready as a father, for doing some bad things to her. And he actually seemed very sincere. Like, I like that. And Sheree seemed like she really took it in. And she did say that she received it and thanked him for the apology. And he said, he was very serious. He didn't have any jokes. He said, look, I want to be your friend. This is just a starting point. I want to extend beyond just being here for the kids. So I believed it, y'all. Did y'all believe it? What y'all think? So we briefly go to LA, where we see Cynthia and Noelle getting ready for the cargo launch. And they're kind of setting it up to just highlight the fact that Noelle is a typical teenager and she's always on her phone. Because Cynthia is doing Noelle's hair and she's trying to coach her on the press and what to expect. And this is very important. And Noelle is just in her phone the whole time. Okay, so when Phaedra and Kenya had met up, Phaedra also mentioned she was going to have a laser tag event, and the point was to get together and just have a good time. But Phaedra also has an ulterior motive. So the laser tag event looks fun. Kenya's on her way. She has Mal with her, which is surprising. Like, what's Mal doing there? But apparently Cynthia was in LA, so she couldn't come, so Mal came. So all the ladies show up, and they have a great time, and Sheree has come with an agenda. She is about to take Kenya down. She is not happy with how that other event went, so she's here for some payback. Oh yeah, Lena makes an appearance too. Y'all remember my little soliloquy last week about Lena and her role in this season, how she's a link between Kenya and Sheree falling out, and then she's the fiance of a guy who's on Block's record label. She's being billed as Kandi's friend, but I really wonder, what is she going to bring to the table? I mean, we see the connection, but she doesn't really say much. I'm waiting to see why she's important, really. Because we honestly could have met Block without her. Sheree and Kenya could have fallen out without her. Why does she need to be here? I mean, I wonder how integral she is to the season, because they've actually introduced her pretty early on. So then we go back to LA for the event, the cargo launch, and Leon is there. Leon has come out. Leon is Noelle's dad, and he's there to support the event, and that was really nice of them. So during the event, we see Cynthia working the room. She's talking to everybody. She's doing everything she's supposed to do. Noelle is sitting down on her phone. Cynthia goes up and she's like, hey, what's going on? And Leon says, well, her feet hurt. She wanted to sit down. So Cynthia's like, look, my feet hurt too. You need to be working the room. You need to be meeting the press. This is important, Let's go. In the end, the launch goes very well. Everyone is very excited about Noelle. She's excited. She gives a little bit of a speech. Oh, before the launch, they were saying they were about to unveil her photo. And she's, wait a minute, let me get my phone. Again, y'all, she was on the phone the whole time. It was crazy. So hopefully she sees this and she realizes, look, you're on the phone a little bit too much. This is business, honey. Business. Cynthia made another remark about moving to LA. She brought it up again. And I started to think, like, you know what? Maybe she could go to LA. She's free now. I mean, she's divorcing Peter. And she only moved to Atlanta for Peter because she was super happy over there in New York City. So if she's free now and she said Noelle's in LA, Leon's in LA, her cargo line is in LA, there's really no reason for her to stay in Atlanta. So we might be seeing a crossover with the Beverly Hills ladies. You never know, guys. So after laser tag, Phaedra invites the ladies down to some restaurant for dessert. And she uses that as an opportunity to start to bring up her overnight camp in Michigan. So she wants all of the ladies to be involved in helping. She's going to do a fundraiser to make some money. So she starts to talk about this and she asks Kenya, will she be able to get along with Sheree? So Kenya's like, of course, I'll be fine. But then she mentions she's fine except for the fact that Mal told her that Sheree was talking about her. So clearly we find out why Mal is there. But she never said anything, but she was there. So at least Kenya can't be talking about her behind her back. And basically Mal was repeating whatever Sheree said the night before, which Sheree, or 2 days prior, Sheree was just telling them what Kenya had said after the escape room event. For whatever reason, Kenya took offense to the fact that Sheree was saying something about it, and they get into it. They start arguing again, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, completely taking over what they're even there for. So Phaedra finally gets back control of the table, and she mentions, she thanks them all for coming out to laser tag. She mentions that this is a place that she takes her kids. And so when she had originally said that in the beginning, that was a place she took her kids, I was kind of like, I've never seen any of your kids at a laser tag place. I remember these outlandish parties that you get from Mr. President and the Prince and whatever. And laser tag is way too pedestrian for your kids. And so it was funny because Kandi also made it look like, for real though? For real? So anyway, so then Phaedra goes back into her speech about the Michigan overnight camp, and she is asking everybody to contribute. Turns out Lena has a story, y'all. I didn't know. So Lena's going to come to this event, and she's going to sell clothes, and she's going to have Sheree take a picture. Okay. And Sheree says she can also sell t-shirts, her Who Gon' Check Me Boo t-shirts. And then she's going to have Kenya sell her hair care products. She's going to have Portia sell Go Naked Hair. She's going to have Kandi sell her bedroom candy products. I forgot to mention, y'all, during the brouhaha between Kenya and Sheree, as they're going back and forth, Kenya calls out Sheree on that tacky wig she's wearing. So at first I was like, yes, somebody said it. That wig is the worst. She's got to get rid of it. But why did Kenya call it an old Mama Joyce wig? So Kandi, who'd been sitting there eating, stops mid-chew and was like, wait a minute. What you're not going to do is talk about my mama. So Kenya's like, I wasn't talking about your mama. So then they get into it. Kandi's not backing down. She's not having it. You cannot come from Mama Joyce, y'all. You didn't know? You better know. Nobody comes from Mama Joyce. So then we're back in LA, and Cynthia and Leon and Noelle go out to dinner. I didn't even see Noelle at first. She was, of course, head down in her phone, and they chit-chat about the event and how well it went, and then Noelle leaves to go to a concert. So anyway, finally, the point of this is that Cynthia and Leon, now that they have some time alone, Cynthia reveals to Leon that she wants a divorce from Peter. And so Leon says, yeah, it seemed like it was rushed anyway. The truth is nobody thought they should have gotten married, even Cynthia herself. And they even showed the flashback. She even said she didn't feel right about it, but she said she wanted to prove everyone wrong. Y'all, she was 40-something years old. When you're 40-something years old, you don't get married to prove anybody wrong. You know, that's a teenager move. So as level-headed as Cynthia is, I'm kind of surprised that she wanted to do that. But whatever, right? We're all human. We're all weak. Whatever. We all have our weaknesses. Whatever. She admitted it. She's moving on with her life. Good for her. So Leon was very supportive, and he tried to be encouraging. And Cynthia says that she's afraid that she and Peter won't be friends once they get divorced, because everyone's telling her you're going to hate each other and all this stuff. And it terrifies her. She really wants to have the same type of relationship with Peter that she has with Leon. Now, Cynthia, it honestly depends on the person. Maybe Leon's just more mature. Maybe he's just a better person than petty, childish Peter. So, I mean, honestly, it's not just about how you behave and how you're going to be mature and how you're going to be upfront. It's about Peter. We already saw him being childish and petty already this season, talking about, I'm with my new woman, my new business, and I miss your face, and all that crap he's been saying already. So you already know it's going to be some mess with Peter, because that's who he is. Be ready. Be prepared. You know, it won't be your fault if it doesn't work out. And the grand finale of the show is Block calls Kandi, and she's surprised. And he calls her like nothing, like, hey, how's it going? And he says he wants to start over. He said he wants to co-parent with Riley. So Candy's like, well, co-parent, do you know how old she is? And so he gets all defensive and said he's been trying to call them. They won't call him back. So that sets her off. And she's like, what do you mean you've been trying to call me? When's the last time you called me? And of course he won't address it. Mama Joyce Kandi and Mama Joyce were in the car. Kandi was taking Mama Joyce for a manicure, and thanks for watching Ace. So they were together in the car when the call comes in. So anyway, Kandi had the phone on speaker, so Mama Joyce is hearing all this. So she interjects, and she's like, hey, it's Mama Joyce. You gonna bring up that $50,000, you know? And then he's like, I'm not doing that. He doesn't want to go back and forth with Mama Joyce, which, you know, that's a losing battle, so good for him. So then, after he says he's not going back and forth with Mama Joyce, he says he wants to start over. And he says he wants to know where all the bad blood is coming from. And that just got under Candy's skin. She was so angry. Like, you don't know where the bad blood is coming from? She just went off on him. She just went all the way off on him. And basically, at the end of the day, he said he was going to call her because he wanted to come through and talk to her as well. And so she told him, look, Riley's old enough. You can have a relationship with her by yourself. Just call her. And so, you know, anyway, got turned up. It didn't end well. Poor Kandi starts crying and she's upset and everything. And then, the show ends. Let's talk about it in the comments. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you watched it. Let me know what you thought. I want to hear from you guys. So that's it for the recap of season 9, episode 4 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Thank you for watching. Please continue to come back and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.